In 2014, the Massachusetts DEP updated one of the state environmental regulations called the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, or MCP. Today, we're here to talk to you about the regulatory changes to NAPL. NAPLs are liquids that don't readily dissolve in water, kind of like the olive oil in your salad dressing. We often find them at petroleum and solvent spill sites where there has been a relatively large release into the ground. Examples of NAPLs include gasoline, diesel, fuel oil, or solvents. Some NAPLs are light, meaning that they float on water and they are known as L-NAPLs. Others are more dense than water. Instead of floating, they sink down into the groundwater. These are known as D-NAPLs. So Kevin, what are these recent Massachusetts regulatory changes to NAPL?
Well, it's easiest to start from where the regulations used to be prior to the 2014 changes. In the past, the regulatory limit for NAPL in Massachusetts was 1/2 inch. If you were above that level, then you could not close the release and you needed to do some additional cleanup or investigation. The 1/2 inch limit was essentially a bright line. If you were over that limit, then there was a problem. And if you were under that limit, then you could potentially close the site. It was a simple system and easy for folks to understand, but it was actually too simple. The reality is that NAPL behavior in the subsurface is quite complex, and so the Massachusetts DEP revised the regulations to more accurately match how NAPL behaves in the environment.
From a practical perspective, what effects will these regulatory changes have on the cleanup process?
Well, the changes allow us to apply our scientific knowledge about NAPL to get a better understanding of whether the NAPL will actually present a risk. Moving forward, we'll be using multiple lines of evidence to look at things like the NAPL toxicity, whether the NAPL is mobile enough so that it will migrate somewhere, and whether the NAPL is a source of vapors to buildings. If these data indicate that the NAPL doesn't present a significant risk, it's possible that you'll be able to close a site, even if the NAPL thickness is greater than 1/2 inch. The biggest potential effect will be on those sites with viscous fuel oil or lubricating oil releases. This NAPL is so thick that it's almost impossible to remove it to below the old 1/2 inch limit. These MCP changes make it potentially feasible to close some of these previously unclosable sites.
What about the less viscous NAPLs like gasoline or solvents?
There won't be as much of a practical change for these NAPL sites because the primary concerns aren't related to thickness. These projects will require site-specific evaluation by a licensed site professional.
If you have any questions about these recent regulatory changes, or if you would like to talk about a project with one of GeoInsight's licensed site professionals or engineers, it's easy to get in touch. We would be happy to give you a hand.